Every app needs backend services to function effectively. And in this module, we will explore what they are and how they power your Flutter apps. First, we will talk about the backend as a service. This is really about simplifying things. In this way, you will learn how to focus on building your app and not get busy with backend headaches. Then, we will jump into getting started with Firebase. I'll walk you through connecting Firebase to your FlutterFlow projects, making it easy to manage your database, user authentication, and more. After that, we will cover Firebase Authentication. This is how you can add user sign-ins to your app via email, Google, or other methods. We will also look at Firebase Cloud Functions and storage. These tools allow you to add extra power to your app, whether you need to store user data or assets or perform specific tasks on the backend without managing servers. Then, we will switch gears to talk about getting started with Supabase. It's another great backend option in FlutterFlow. We'll explore why you might need to use it, especially if you prefer something like traditional SQL database. Of course, Supabase also has authentication features, so we will walk through how to set up that up too. Finally, we will talk about generated code in FlutterFlow. We will explore how all of the integrations that we've done will appear in the final generated code. So that's a quick rundown. Let's dive into each part and get you up and running with backend services in FlutterFlow. Before exploring the backend as a service, let's review what a backend is. In web and mobile development, the backend refers to the server-side part of an application that handles tasks such as database interactions, user authentication, server logic, and data storage. Essentially, this interaction is done over the internet. For example, here, a user interacts with the app by favoriting an item when the user taps on the heart icon for the product. This sends a request to the server over the internet. The request has been processed, the heart icon has been updated, and is turning purple. However, an immediate update happens because the app stores the favorite status in its app state, providing a good user experience without waiting for a full response from the server. At the same time, the app sends the favorite action request to the server, so the change can be saved in the database. This ensures that the favorite status persists across different sessions and platforms, even the app is closed and reopened later. In a traditional backend approach, developers manages all of these infrastructure manually, ensuring the server runs efficiently and the data is securely stored. However, modern backend architectures and styles offer new approaches that simplify hosting, running servers, and in many cases, even maintenance. One of them is Backend as a Service, or BaaS. Backend as a Service is a cloud computing service model that provides developers with ready-to-use backend services. These services typically includes databases, authentication, cloud storage, server-side logics, and more. You may ask what cloud and cloud computing means. Very good question. Let's get into that very quickly. The cloud refers to server accessed over the internet and the software and databases that run on those services. Cloud servers are located in data centers worldwide. Using cloud computing, users and companies do not have to manage physical servers or deal with data centers. The cloud service provider will do that for you. Backend as a service allows developer to focus on building the front end and their applications without worrying about the infrastructure and backend management. It abstracts the complexity of server-side development and provides a set of APIs and tools to manage backend tasks. Using BaaS can significantly speed up the development process, reduce cost, and allow for easy scalability. It's especially useful for teams who want to bring their products to the market quickly. The two examples of backend as a service that are also supported in FlutterFlow are Firebase and Supabase. In this module, we will set up both services and integrate them with our e-commerce app. With no hesitation, let's just get started. Let's get started with Firebase. By accessing the Firebase website, you can learn about all services and documentation and go to the Firebase dashboard after logging into your account. Essentially, you can add Firebase to any FlutterFlow project in two different ways. You can create a new Firebase project directly from FlutterFlow, or you can manually connect an existing Firebase project. Let me remind you that when you create a new project in FlutterFlow, you can enable and configure Firebase. If you don't, you need to set it up. You can access it both ways from the project settings and configurations. One-click creating project is the simplest, but manually connecting is also simple enough. In this module, we will connect manually, and you will see that in a demo shortly. There are a few steps to integrate Firebase with FlutterFlow. These steps include creating a Firebase project, enabling necessary services, and downloading Firebase configuration files. Connect these files into your FlutterFlow project. After you create a Firebase project, you will see the dashboard where in the menu on the left, you can access Build, Run, and Analytics products. You can also access Firebase project settings and control your project. And you can also modify your Firebase project pricing plan. Billing is important to understand before starting a Firebase project. Essentially, you have two plans. The Spark plan is Firebase free tier. It includes generous limits for core services like authentication, Firestore, hosting, which are ideal for small projects, personal apps, or initial development phases. The Blaze plan, on the other hand, is a pay-as-you-go plan. It scales with your app's usage and offers the same core services but without the limits of the Spark plan. You only pay for what you use, making it suitable for production apps and projects with variable or high usage needs. Keep in mind, some services in Firebase also requires you to upgrade first. Please remember that you must create a billing profile and add a credit card before you can upgrade. But let me explain the relationship between Firebase project, the apps, and the services, because this is important as we are going to create our project. A Firebase project is the top level entity for Firebase. You can register your Apple, Android, or web apps in a project. Once apps are registered, they can access the products and services in Firebase. The apps registered within one project can share services usage. So, for example, if you have two Apple or two Android or two web apps registered, they all gonna share all the services. However, if you have more than one app requiring separate service access in Firebase, you may need to create a new project. For example, if you need a separate database or a separate authentication for both of your apps completely independently, you need two projects. That was it, the core concepts of Firebase. So let's get into a demo and create a new project and connect it to FlutterFlow. All right, so I already have logged into my account. I'm just gonna go to console. And here is my Firebase console. So I don't have any projects. So let's go ahead and create a new project right now. You need to start by giving your project name. So I will start by giving it e-commerce course app. You will also find this unique identifier for project. This is a project globally unique identifier, which is very important when we are connecting to FlutterFlow. If you want to change this to make it something that you can recognize, you can do that as long as it's unique. Otherwise, you can leave it as is. If you want the Google Analytics to be enabled, you can leave it also enabled as it's recommended. But it's just up to you whether you want or not. But if you do that, then you need to either choose or create a Google Analytics account. I'm going to go and create a new one with the name of my project. So then also select your analytics location. I will leave it US for now, and I'll accept the rest as is. Then hit the create project and wait until the project provisioning and creation is done. All right, once the Firebase project is ready, let's go to the dashboard and take a look at the dashboard. Here is my dashboard. I have access to all services here, and we're going to actually go through some of these in this module and some of them in the next module. But as long as you open any of these, let's say Firestore database for the first time, you will see that you need to enable them. But I'm not going to enable any service as of now, but we will do that as it requires in the upcoming videos and modules. Some of the services also requires you to upgrade to BaaS plan. For example, if you want to use functions, the functions are requiring you to upgrade to another billing plan, which is the pay as you go. So we're going to do that later, but for now, I just wanted to mention that here is where you can upgrade. So let me also go to the setting here. Project setting also gives you information about your project, including the project ID that we just created. However, this project ID is unique and you cannot change that. You can change the project name, but not the ID. As you can see, there are no apps in this project right now, but we're going to register iOS, Android, and our web application. All right. So now let's go and take a look at FlutterFlow settings for Firebase. All right, here is my project. I'll go to the setting and I'll go to Firebase. And you see that now I have the two options that we discussed. So we already have a project. So we want to connect our own Firebase project. So we need to grab the project ID and connect and then generate config files. But in order to do that, we need to give access to FlutterFlow to our Firebase project. All right, back to my Firebase project setting, then I can go to user and permission. And you need to add a new member. And the member that you are adding has an email. So it's firebase@flutterflow.io. You need to give it a editor role. So there you go. And then add the member. All right, that's good, but that's not enough. There's still more permissions that you need to provide in order to enable FlutterFlow to connect and generate and add the different apps to your Firebase projects. So in order to do that, you need to open the advanced permission settings. But if I open this, it actually goes to Google Cloud Console. Firebase is actually built on top of Google Cloud. So I'm going to click on that right now. And as you can see, I will land on Google Cloud Console and I'll see right now the permissions for the project. And This is also my principle, the email that we just added with the role editor. We need to add 2 more roles to this principle or to this user that we just added. Let's go ahead and edit this. We already have editor, add a new role, and search for service account user. All right. And there is another one, which as of now is not required, but in the upcoming module where we are going to use the function, we do need this. So therefore, search for Cloud Functions Admin and then add that to this principle. And that's it. Save. There you go. You have both of the roles added and all good. Let's go back to our Firebase project. I'm going to go to the General tab and copy my project ID now. All right, now I'm going to just paste my Firebase project ID and then connect. There you go. It's successfully connected. And as you can see right now, I have a check mark here. Beautiful, which means this is successfully connected. The next step we need to do, we need to generate the config files. What it does, it also gonna go and register all of our application under FlutterFlow. In this case, we have Android and iOS into the Firebase project. All right, now it opens a modal, a pop-up that I need to specify at least 2 things. First is the package name, and the second one is the project nickname. These are related to my Android and iOS application. And the package name, in fact, is a unique identifier of the app on App Store and Google Play. You will learn about this in module 19 when we are going to deploy our application. But for now, as a rule of thumbs, always have your domain of your company reversed and the name of your project. For example, for now, I have io.flutterflow.ecommerce course app. And that's it. So once you've done that, then also set a project nickname and then go ahead and generate the files. Beautiful. Now the Firebase setup is complete, which means I can open my Firebase console and take a look at what has happened. All right, here is my project overview. As you can see now, we have 3 apps registered. Let me just click on that. You see that we have an Android, an iOS, and a web application. Beautiful. This is exactly what we were looking for. Now our FlutterFlow and Firebase projects both are connected and ready to go. That's it for this video. Let's go to the next video and start using some of these services. And the first service we're going to use is going to be authentication. In Module 2, we have seen what authentication is. Let's quickly review again. In mobile applications, users can authenticate using various methods, including email login, social media login, and phone authentication. While each method has unique features and advantages, they all share a common goal: enhancing security and verifying users' identities to provide a safe and personalized user experience. FlutterFlow provides native support for various authentication services that can be accessed via app settings. In this video, we will focus on Firebase integration. Let's start by reviewing the typical scenario in app development. In an app application, you may have protected pages that can be viewed after a user is logged in or authenticated, and some pages that users who are not authenticated can visit. For example, an entry page. If the user is not logged in, this page will be displayed. It's typically used to display the onboarding flow or to provide the login sign up page or login page. Logged in page, for example, product list page, is a page that will be displayed if the user is already logged into your app. Users are automatically navigated to the page, so you can specify here on a successful sign-in attempt. All right, this was the initial setup that you had to do. Let's now get into different methods for login. Firebase provides several auth providers that can meet most of your application's needs. These includes typical native providers such as email or password login, social media providers such as Google and Facebook. You can also have your authentication server and connect it to Firebase via custom provider. For this video and our app, we will implement email and password. When you implement a username and password in your app, you'll need to have a sign in and create account forms. The create account action is the entry point for new users in any application. This action involves collecting necessary information such as email and password and potentially other users' specific details like name and phone numbers. The primary goal is to register and store new user data securely in your backend or authentication service. This process typically includes steps like validating forms, which you will learn about it in Module 18, checking for uniqueness of usernames and email, addresses, and etc. The next step to add create account or sign up button to attach the user account action to it. Typically, this action will be triggered on tap. There are a few steps for creating an account. You can start by having a provider, such as Firebase Authentication login with username and password. Then the information required for the provider, such as username and password. Optionally, you can also register extra information depending on your use case or app. Sometimes you have to store extra information in a database. You will learn about databases in Module 15. And finally, the next step is the action after account creation, such as redirecting to product list page from the login page or showing an error message in case of failure at creating an account. The login action, on the other hand, is for users who already have an account. It involves verifying the credential provided by a returning user against stored data to grant access to the system. The process usually requires user to provide their registered email and password, which then checked for correctness through an authentication system, either yours or a trusted third party such as Google or Apple. Enabling login action is fairly similar to create a user account. You should add a login button and attach a login action to it. Depending on your provider, you may need to set some information such as username and password, and potentially you need to handle success or failure of login either by taking to the next step or navigating to protected page. Let's quickly see, after enabling Firebase Authentication Service, how you can verify that user is created. To verify that you have successfully added the email authentication and users are being created, you can head over to your Firebase project. Under the Authentication Service, in the Users tab, you can see all users so that you can verify the user entries. One more tip. After the user is successfully authenticated and logged in, you will be able to bind values to access the authentication user, such as email or user ID from variables. And one more tip before the demo. Along with create account and login actions, there are several other Firebase authentication actions that you can leverage in your application. For example, you may implement a logout button on the profile page so that user can log out from the application. That's where the logout action comes in handy. You may also want to provide reset password page to let user reset their password, where you can use this action and so on. Keep in mind, some of these actions may require a little bit more implementation and configuration, so always check FlutterFlow documentation for necessary steps to take. Beautiful. Let's start to create a login and create account page in a demo. Back to my application right now, I have several pages, including the product list page and a home page that at the moment doesn't do anything. So we don't have any auth pages such as login or create account. So let's go ahead and quickly create that. For now, I'm just going to create a folder first. Let's call it auth. And then I'll put all the different pages under this folder. I'm going to add a new page and I will select a template for now. All right, this template looks good. Let's go ahead. My theme, create account, page. Beautiful. Now we have a create account page. Let's just remove this text and that looks pretty good. Let me go and add another page for login. So if you want to have the social media logins like Google, Apple, Facebook, and others, you can use, for example, this theme. I'm going to use this now just to look nicer. Let me also move the create account under the auth page. Beautiful. And let's go ahead and even have a reset password page. Add a new page under the auth. Let's see if we can find any reset password. Beautiful. This one looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and use this. All right. So now we have 3 new pages. So I'm going to go to my login page and also remove this text. We don't need that. All right. We have username and password. We have everything that we need right now. So we just need to go ahead and connect these links. So when we tap on sign in, we just want a user to redirect to the login page. So let's go and add an action. So we're going to use navigate to a login page. And that's beautiful. And let's do also a login page. We do have sign up. Let's do a navigation also here where we navigate to the create account page. And on this page, as you can see, we don't have a reset password as of now. Let's go ahead and add one text to reset password. In fact, I can just duplicate this text. Then go to the widget tree. And what we can do, we can actually move this to maybe below this button. Let's change it. Say, forgot password. Reset. All right, let's do the action. So this should navigate to the reset password. All right, so we have now login, forgot password page, and create account. So we also have 2 buttons, which we are not going to implement in this video, but as I move on the buttons, go to action, I'll see that there's already some actions like Google Auth Provider assigned to this. So I'm just gonna go and delete this action for now because we don't need that for this demo. There you go. And there's also probably another action assigned to sign in. As you can see, I'm going to also delete this because we're going to do that together. Let's do the same for reset. Just delete everything that we have because we use the template. So that's why we have some action already created for us. I'm just going to delete all the action just to make sure we have a clean pages. All right, beautiful. So everything looks pretty good. I'll check also in the issues, no problem. Let's now go to the setting and under the authentication, I can now enable my authentication for my app. I'm going to go and use Firebase type in this case. And when we do that, we need to select an entry page, which is going to be for non-logged in users, which in this case, we're going to select login page. So if you are not logged in, you need to navigate to login page. And if you are logged in and you are loading the application, like for example, for the second time after you logged in, so you need to go to the product list page, I think is the best. Beautiful. And as you can see, you have a specific login instruction for Google, Apple, Facebook, or phone, and different types. So for now, we're just going to stick to the username and password, which does not require us to do anything else here. Beautiful. Now we need to go back to our Firebase project. So let's open our Firebase Authentication under Build tab. When you come to this page for the first time, you need to start the service. Once the service is up and running, then you get to the sign-in method. And as you can see, you have multiple options to do. So for now, we're going to stick to the email and password, and only the email and password, not even passwordless login. So you can do that, but for now, we're just going to stick to the username and password so we understand the flow properly. Let's go ahead and save. There you go. Now I have one provider. The beautiful things about Firebase Authentication is that now you can add even more provider. You can come back and later add Google or Apple login or Twitter, whatever you want. And then you can go and leverage the actions in FlutterFlow after you set up the provider's instructions. Okay, so for now, email and password is good enough. Let's go back to our app. What we're going to do right now, we're going to go ahead and get the email and password. And after creating an account, so we're going to pass this information to Firebase Authentication. So let's go ahead and add an action on create account. And this action, this time, so what you can do, you can actually search for Firebase Authentication, and you will see multiple actions here. What are we going to do now is going to be create account. Let's click. Beautiful. What you need to do next is to set your auth provider. And as you have seen, Firebase has multiple auth provider. So you can select Google, Apple, Facebook, and so on. But what we selected and enabled was email. Let's select that. And whenever you select a provider, there will be some required field. And as you can see, we have email, password, and confirm password, which we already created for our account. This is beautiful. So we can get the data right now from those fields. Beautiful. Now we need to set all these fields. Let me just rename my action as well. Let's go and say create account action. Perfect. And now we need to set the required field. Let's go and say the email is going to be the email address. And where does this come from? So let me just select password and confirm password, and I will show you quickly where these fields are coming from. If I go back now to our page, you see that we have the three text fields, email, password, and password confirm. We rename these text fields. And in fact, in the action that you just define these fields, these are the widget states for that text field, which we renamed it, and they are actually populated here automatically. Beautiful. So when a create account happened, then what should we do in this case? So we pass the data, but should we navigate automatically? If we select that, it actually navigates that automatically to the page that we assigned as a login page, as an initial login page, which was product list. So in this case, we don't need probably to do anything. But if I turn this off, I can add another action and say when that is done and successful probably, then you can go ahead and navigate to like any page that you want. So for now, I'm going to go and delete the action and stick to the navigate automatically because we already set that in the our setting. That's good, but how about login? So we again have two fields, two text field here, which is we can get the state of these widgets, which is perfect. Then I'm going to go on sign in, add a new action on tab. And this time, if I search for Firebase Authentication, I can use login. So let's go ahead and select the login action. And as you can see, it still needs a provider. So you need to select which provider you want to log in with. So it's obviously email. And the email field is going to be my email address and the password. Beautiful. And we're still going to navigate automatically. So FlutterFlow will handle that for us. Let me just go ahead and rename this. All right, that's beautiful. And let's close. Let's do the reset right now. I'm going to go to forgot password. I do have an email address as my username field. And I'm going to go on the send link button. Let's add an action on tab and search for Firebase Authentication. And you'll see that we have a reset password action this time. Let me just quickly go and reset the password with the email address. So when user enter an email or their username and click on this button, they will receive a reset password email from Firebase and they can reset their password. All right, these are all beautiful. So let's do one more thing before to test the demo. Let's now go to profile setting page. This is where we have the user information and email. For now, as we don't really get user profile or name, which we are going to do that in later modules and also videos in this course, for example, uploading an avatar, we're just going to set the email here. For now, this text is static. We just put something here. But what we're going to do, we're going to go and bind our authenticated user from variable. The user is authenticated coming to this page. We already know their email. So I'm just going to select that, and that is going to be shown here. It would be very nice if you also add a log out button. So let's quickly do that. Let me just go here and select a button. Let's go to the button settings. Let's call it log out. And I'm just going to go and change the background color this time to maybe have error, just to highlight this is going to be a log out. So then we need to add an action on tab. And for Firebase authentication, we do have a log out action. There you go. We still can use the navigate automatically, which is going to use our setting a non-logged in page. Or if you don't want, you can turn it off and add your own action after log out. I will stick to my default setting for now. Beautiful. So now we have a log out as well. So there's a few more things we need to do quickly, and that's the page itself. These pages are supposed to be shown when user is actually logged in. So if you go to the route setting right now, you do have required authentication. So, and you can select this if you want this page to be protected for logged in user. And we do want this profile setting, order list, product details, product list page to be protected. So, and then the other pages like create account, forgot password, and login, that's all good. So user can see it if they're not logged in. That's beautiful. We are now also protected our pages. So we now know when user come to this page, we know who this user is. We can actually show their avatar. We can go to the profile settings and show their email. All right, that's great. But let's do one more thing here. So when we create an account and user put an email as a username, we create an account as of now, right? But what we really want to do after this action is to, in fact, send a verification link to verify their email. But we also want to let them to log in for sure. So let's just add another action here. Let's search for Firebase Authentication, and then you see that you will have send email verification. If you have, like, for example, SMS and you follow the instruction and you want to also send an SMS to verify, you can also use this action. Let's go ahead and actually send an email verification. Beautiful. So then after creation, then the Firebase is going to send an email verification automatically. Let's just rename the action name. Beautiful. Now let's go and test it out. For the demo, I'm going to use my simulator and FlutterFlow desktop. So it's already running in my iPhone 16 Pro, for example. And as you can see this time, when we run the application, it goes to the login page, not product list page. And we need to log in fact, so we have not created any account yet. So what we need to do, we need to go to a sign up page and create an account. And let's quickly create an account just for testing purposes. There you go. As soon as you create an account and the verification of the email is done, then you are logged in right now. And let's see if actually we are logged in correctly. So I go to profile page and there you go. I see my test@test.com, which is my email. So if I now go back to my Firebase dashboard, if I go back to the users tab right now under authentication service, I see my user is here and that's the unique ID of the user. You, in fact, can do a few things here, like you can reset the password from Firebase dashboard, or you can disable the account or delete the account from here. That's nice. So let's go back to the app. And for now, what we're going to do right now, so I'm going to go back here. Let's add a product just to have some product here. And what we're going to do right now, so I'm going to restart my application this time. So this time, when we restart, you see that after restarting the app, you're not seeing the login page anymore because you already logged in because we created an account and you logged in here. Let's test out our log out page. All right, see, the logout is happening. We redirect back to login page. We cannot go back anymore. You see, I cannot go back anymore. There's no back. I cannot do that. Beautiful. Let's see if we can log in right now since we created an account. There you go. Beautiful. And that's all about login, log out with username and password and create an account. That's nice. Let's move on to the next video. Storing and retrieving static assets such as images and videos are essential to build an application. That's where Firebase Storage comes in handy. For example, if you have a catalog of products that requires multiple photos, you may store these photos in Firebase Cloud Storage. When you enable this service in your Firebase project, you technically create a bucket. Think of bucket as a root folder where you can add files and subfolders to it. However, it would not be secure if anyone could access your folders, right? It's good to have a level of access or permissions set up. That's where you can use Firebase Storage security rules, which controls who can access files and folders. For example, you may set the rule for storage that allow only authenticated users to upload or send images. These rules are critical for protecting your data. They are used in multiple Firebase products and services and have a specific, easy-to-learn language. Therefore, we must understand how they work. Let's get into it. Security rules in Firebase has 4 components. Security rules are applied to Firebase services like Firestore and Cloud Storage. You can define separate rules for each service. The match statement targets specific paths in your database or storage. You can use wildcards to match multiple parts. Stay tuned. I'm going to show you an example shortly. The allow statement specifies the types of operation, read, write, create, update, delete, that are allowed for the match path. And then finally, you can define conditions that must be met for the allowed statement to be true. These conditions can be based on authenticated users' properties, such as a user ID or written data. Here is an example. We have a Firebase Storage security rule that allows users to read and write data in the storage only if they are authenticated and storage user ID matches their own user ID. Let's break this down. As Firebase security rule is defined to support multiple services in a central manner, you need to declare which service you are writing the rules for. Using service Firebase Storage indicates that these rules are being applied to Firebase Storage service. You can also apply rules for other services such as Firestore that we will do in the module 15. Stay tuned. The match statement defines where the action level should happen. For example, the old path equals star style with curly braces. This is a wildcard, which indicates everything else. And if you want to define an action for a specific user folder, you may upload our user under their user ID. The user ID can be folder or subfolders and then define what this user can do to everything underneath. In Firebase security rules, the allow statement is used to grant or deny access to specific resources or operations based on the conditions provided. The permission methods often are get, list, or in conveniently read, create, update, delete, or conveniently write. The conditions can be either from built-in Firebase expressions or by writing your own condition. For example, request.auth.uid is provided by Firebase, which means any request that is authenticated will have to access this resource if it has user ID and the user ID is equal to the user ID that we defined to the path. And if it's okay, then the user can perform the operations, which in this case is read and write. Once you've written your rules, you can either deploy security rules from FlutterFlow dashboard or manage security rules yourself. If you need more control or have complex rules, use the Firebase dashboard to manage them. If you have simple rules, you can also do that from FlutterFlow setting page. Make sure after each change, you deploy your changes. FlutterFlow provides multiple actions for managing assets, including uploading, deleting, medias, and files. But before using these actions, ensure you have written and tested your security rules. When you upload images or videos, you can use the upload media action. This action lets you open the camera or gallery from the phone and lets user to upload a media. If you want to upload a file that doesn't need camera or gallery, for example, and it's a file, you can use the upload file action. This action helps you upload files such as PDF or audio files or any other types of files. When you select Firebase as where you upload files or medias, after the upload is complete, you will get an uploaded URL. Then you can directly use the widget state upload file URL to preview media or save the URL for later retrieval. Local upload will save your media to the device first. This is useful if you want to upload to your own backend or use an API directly. You can access it via widget state uploaded local file. Then make an API call to transfer the file to your server. Note that this API call must return the URL of the uploaded file, which you can later use to preview the media or store it somewhere in your database. By utilizing clear uploaded data action, you can clear the uploaded file URL. This functionality is handy when you want to offer user a straightforward method to remove any uploaded media, such as images or recordings by providing them with an explicit option to do so. Using delete data action, you can delete the uploaded media such as photos, videos, and PDF files. And finally, FlutterFlow provides many built-in widgets supporting your media and files, including video players, audio players, and PDF viewers. All right, that was it all about storage, Firebase Storage, security rules, and now let's go to a demo and see how we can store and persist media content files in a demo. All right, here is my project right now, and we have the profile avatar. What we're gonna do, we wanna make sure when user tap on this avatar, in this case, I'm adding a tap action, then it actually upload and save media. And I'm gonna upload it to Firebase, and in this case, I'm gonna select both camera and gallery. I'm not gonna change anything else. I will let only photos and make sure that we are also showing in a snack bar where it shows loading and success messages or even failure. Beautiful. That action is good enough. Another thing we want to do, we want to make sure that after the image is uploaded, so we are going to store it at least in our app state. So we can use the generated URL into the avatars in other pages too. So in order to do that, so I want to make sure that in another action, I will just go and set an app state. But we don't really yet have created any app state here. So let's go and create an app state. Let's create a variable, avatar, and in this case, I'm going to just store the image path. So let's go back to our action and make sure now we're actually setting the avatar from the widget states, and that's going to be the uploaded file URL. Beautiful. So now let's close this. The next thing we want to do, we want to make sure this avatar is showing the picture that is uploaded. So I'm going to go to my profile avatar, and on the circle image, you see that we have now a fixed URL that is loading a picture from network, and it's same for everyone. So I'm going to change this now from setting from the variable, and I will read that from app state avatar. Beautiful. Last thing I want to do, if I go back to my app state, so there is an avatar here where it does not have any default value. I want to make sure that we have a default value in case that we don't have any avatar, we show something. I will just replace a placeholder URL in this case. Perfect. So now we have everything ready. And if I go back to my page, profile settings, so now we can go ahead and test it out. But there is two things we need to do. First, we need to go back to our Firebase project and go to storage and enable storage. There we go. The first thing we see is going to be the rules for production or for testing. So for now, I'll actually keep it in production. We already learned about the rules and how we can write them. For the first time, you will also see the storage. I'm going to go and select the default. You can change it to anything else you want. And that's the location of a cloud storage. As close as possible to your customers, the better. But for now, we're just going to keep it the default. Beautiful. Now the bucket is created. So what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we create a folder of users. And this folder is going to hold all of users' user IDs. And then user can upload under their folder. So in order to make sure that user can only upload to their folder, we need to go and write our rules. I'm going to go and start writing our rules under the bucket. We need to write a new match. So what should be the path for that? So we now have the users folder. And then under that, there will be a user ID, but we don't know the user ID. This is dynamic, right? But then another thing we know that is under that, then everything. So I'm just going to copy all paths, wildcard, and then put it here. So beautiful. So now I can write my match condition. Let me just copy and paste what we have here. We're going to allow user to read and write, like delete, get, and update, and also upload. For now, it's false, which means no one can do anything. But I'll just go ahead and write my condition. I'm going to use the request from Firebase. And in this request, you have an auth, which it gives you the user ID. And then you can say this user ID, which comes from the uploading photo, should be matched with this variable we just defined in the path. Perfect. And if they are both matching, then let them upload. You're going to go and publish that. And as you can see, I'm not using FlutterFlow to write my conditions. I'm actually handling that in Firebase itself. Since you already learned the language, I think it's easy to do it here. Because we also have a playground as well in Firebase, you can actually right now test if this rules is working. Let me write a quick path here, user and an ID of 1, 2, 3. Let's say user is going to create, or in this means uploading a picture, and user is authenticated already. And the provider, so what have we done? We actually chose password so far. It's user and password. And the Firebase user is going to be 1, 2, 3, like exactly the same as the path here. This is for testing, right? I'm going to run this, see if it's actually matching. Perfect. It actually matches. As you can see right now, my user ID is 1, 2, 3. You'll see that in the screen. And also my UID from request is 1, 2, 3. So if that's both are matching, then it matches and user can upload. How about get? Perfect, it works. And user cannot do anything else in any other location, only can do something here. Perfect, so now we protected this URL and we also enabled the storage. Let's go back to our project. We did everything that we wanted. Beautiful. Let's go and run this application. Just make sure if you already have the simulator running with your app, stop it completely and then start your app again. Because by adding this action, you're adding 2 packages that needs to be installed again. And I will show you what will happen in that case. All right, our app is up and running and you see that the avatar is actually right now a placeholder. Beautiful. Let me just add a few products. Nice. So let's go to the profile setting. The email is correct because I already logged into this app and I have a placeholder because the user does not have any avatar. Let's go ahead and click on that. And you see that the gallery and camera is popping up. And if I click on gallery right now, you see a permission request. I want you to pay attention to this. Let's go to the setting. And under the permissions, you will see that there are multiple permissions available. And what are these? You cannot access to some services or device features such as camera or photo library without asking users for permission, right? You have seen that in other apps. And that's why you can enable or disable these permission also in FlutterFlow under the permissions setting. Since we already added an upload and save media, the camera and photo library, they are automatically enabled for us. You don't need to do anything else. And you cannot even disable it right now because you're using them as of now. So you can read more about the iOS and Android guidelines about this if you want to learn more. All right, let's go back to our simulator. I'm going to give the full access in this case. And let's now upload a picture. I'm going to go and upload this picture. Beautiful. The uploading is happening within a snack bar and success. Beautiful. And that is appearing right here. So it's working pretty well. Let's go back now to our Firebase, see if it's uploaded properly. All right, I'm back to my bucket. So this is the user. Fantastic. I have an ID here. And then I have the upload folders. The rest is handled by FlutterFlow. And then I have the photo. Fantastic. So let's do one more thing here. Let's delete this file as well. So I'm going to my profile setting and add a button. And on this button, let's make it as delete avatar and change the color to probably warning. Beautiful. And then add an action. On tab, what we're going to do, we're going to actually delete data. And as you can see, I'm selecting my Firebase because we uploaded to Firebase, and we need the public storage URL for this photo. To get that value from variables, I can actually get it from app state because I stored it as of now in the app state. So let's do that and add a new action. When that delete is completed, we just want to make sure that we are also updating our app state, which in this case, we want to make sure the avatar app state is also cleared. And the current page is also rebuilt. Beautiful. So let's now close and go ahead and reload the app. Once reloaded, then go to the profile setting. Let's delete. Beautiful. It's deleted, and also the URL is back to the placeholder. And then I can actually upload again a new photo probably. So it's uploading and successfully loaded. Before we end this demo, I'd like to say one thing here. We're adding our avatar to the app state right now, but this is not the very perfect scenario. In fact, we need to store this for users in a database so that if user even log in another device, they can receive their avatar. If they now go to a web page, for example, and then log in, they don't see their avatar. And that's what we're going to do in module 15 when we learn about database. But for now, we have learned how we can get the URL after uploading and set it in app state. But later, we set this state into the database. Beautiful.